As always, this show is brought to you by Mass Monopoly. We're an adventure sports agency focused on fueling the brands that fuel us. Everyone here is an adventure athlete of some sort and is active in some or all the sports we support. We help build adventure brands through authentic, value-based marketing, growing the business without selling your soul. Go to massmonopoly.com for a free consultation. We're also brought to you by 508 Adventure Sports. 508 is a family-run business who want to keep adventure sports affordable for families. They sell handcrafted hard goods manufactured in their New England shop, like their new line of handmade skateboards. They also source affordable, quality accessories for the sports they love, like mountain biking gloves, skateboarding pads, helmets, hiking gear, and all kinds of stuff to keep you and your family out on adventures without breaking the bank. Check them out at 508.com. Five, the letter O, the number 8.com. My guest today is Jason Flynn. Jason is one of the founders of High Society. They're an outdoor lifestyle brand in Colorado, and they manufacture their own line of skis, snowboards, stand-up paddleboards, and some apparel and accessories too. Today we talked about business, sports, family, wildfire, and even sharks. Let's get right to it. And we're off to the races. Thanks for coming on the show. I'm excited to talk to you again. It's been a while since we caught up last time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's an honor to be thought of.
I wanted to start with, I know we've talked about it before, but obviously we're on the show, and I want to know more about High Society and how you guys came to be, because we'll get more into it later. But you're interesting as a brand because you're not really about one of the products you sell. It's more about the lifestyle that they convey, right?
Yeah, and to be honest, my business partner and I have kind of created everything that we've done somewhat selfishly because we've made products that we want and we want to use, and we've then just kind of gone out and attracted people like us who also want to use the kind of stuff that we want. So I don't know.
So is the two of you that started it?
There was actually four of us that originally started. We all worked at a snowboard shop together in Snowmass back in early 2000s. And we were just kind of young punk kids with our, I guess, just thought we could do it. And so here we are.
With a dream in one hand and a beer in the other?
More or less, yeah.
So it started with a snowboard, I'm assuming, since you came from snowboarding?
That's true. Yeah, we started with some snowboards. We had a friend of ours from New Zealand who had actually had a small brand down there called Ribcage. And his name was John Malcolm Smith. He's still kind of well known down there in New Zealand. But we were working with him part-time. He was kind of part-time at the shop we all worked at. And we got to talking to him about creating a brand, and he offered to help us kind of start the process of designing some boards and getting them pressed. So first ones came out of a press in New Zealand, believe it or not. Yep. And we did 6 of them, passed them on. We all kind of designed our own boards for ourselves. I had a 162 wide. Reggie had a 158. Jay had a 155. ABS sidewall, ABS top sheet, super hard, centered 4000 base, really simple, just all matte black graphics. And the buzz kind of got around that we had done this, and we sold 3 out of the 6 that we had made. And yeah, that was kind of how it started.
That's awesome. I was going to ask, so was it like 6 different boards, or was it 6 boards total? But I get that answer now. So that's a lot of fun. So then you took the 3 that you sold and said, let's actually try and do this.
Well, yeah. I mean, the buzz around the village kind of got to be that this was a real possible viable business that we could try. So we decided to try to source some domestic manufacturing, and we met some guys in Huntington Beach that had a little factory called 5 Axis. They made boards for Arbor, Joyride, half a dozen other companies, Endeavor. I don't know if they're still around or not, but yeah. Now that company is called Signal, and the factory's still there as far as I know. And I think Marco, who was one of the founders at 5 Axis, still works at Signal. I could be wrong about that, but last I heard, that's what he was doing.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
So yeah, that's
Signal's
how.
Signal's been making a big impact the last couple of years with their subscription pricing for boards, changing up the way people buy it a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, kind of wild stuff there. I've actually talked to a couple of people that have done it, and yeah, it sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it's an easy way to get new boards all the time, right? It keeps an inflow. I actually wanted to ask you about that. As far as people buying new boards, are you guys seeing people keeping their boards longer or buying boards more often nowadays? I'm getting conflicting answers from different companies.
You know, honestly, it kind of depends. Like, I could imagine that this year we're going to see a lot more customers because last season, especially here in Colorado, where we sell most of our boards, was pretty skinny, pretty bony, and
Yeah,
not a lot of snow. So last year, I think the tune shops were probably the busiest shops in the state, just doing base repairs and edge repairs and stuff. So I imagine this year we'll probably have a pretty bang up business. Everybody really gets optimistic this time of year, hoping for a big snow, and reports are showing for El Nino. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a good sales year for us. Last year wasn't bad, even with this bad snow that we had, but I think it just comes in cycles.
yeah, not even just the snow, but I was talking to a guy I know here that owns one of our local shops, and he was telling me that boards are one of the better parts of his business, but they've been seeing a trend for a while now where people get their boards and they keep them for 3 years or 5 years, where it used to be every season or two people would turn over. But then I talked to some other people like over at Slash Snowboards, where they're seeing people buy more boards more often as opposed to a downturn. That's why I was curious what you guys were seeing.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of a boutique brand by design, so we only produce a certain number of boards per year to kind of keep it a little bit exclusive and also leave a little demand on the table at the end of each season. So, I mean, we typically sell through or sell out, and then we only have one other retail partner with Vail Resorts. But sales for us have been strong even with the bad snow years, and I just anticipate another good year. I mean,
Good.
yeah,
So it's mostly selling direct as opposed to when you say partner, you mean retail places?
exactly.
So you guys mostly do direct, and it's mostly throughout Colorado, but you're growing to different places.
Yeah, that's true. I would say at least 50% of our sales, if I had to just do some quick and dirty estimations, are right here in the state. And then outside of there, back east, the Midwest is a strong market for us. And then the West Coast. I mean, thing is, in snowboarding and skiing, we're seeing it more and more every year. Is there's some pretty vicious regional brand loyalty. All these smaller brands, not dissimilar to high society, or popping up or have been around, and people that are local to those areas kind of support those local brands, which is awesome for companies like High Society and Never Summer, and Out East, some of those other brands. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's more than ever. It's good for the consumers at the very least. You got a lot of options.
A lot of choices,
The
yeah.
the Yeah, definitely. But one thing that's great is to have the options, but the other thing is to know about them, which I think is a challenge because it's similar to in mountain bikes. If you go to your local shop, there's going to be a few brands, most likely the big players. Burton's going to be there, but the niche ones, obviously, the stores can't stock everything, and for the littler guys, it's hard to get in all the stores. So it's how do you help people find? I mean, you don't have to have. I'm not asking you to have the answer, but it's a problem in the growing industry. So it's a good problem in a good place. But how do you get people in, Vermont to know about your business out of Colorado if it's got a local foothold, but it's not? I assume you're not in a lot of stores throughout New England.
Nope, we're not. In fact, one of our longest supporting dealers is in Lincoln, New Hampshire, and it's a place called Mothership Snowboard Shop, and they're part of Rogers Ski and Sport, and they're one of those classic, hardcore snowboard shops that's been there for years and years. I think they opened their snowboard side of the shop in the 90s at some point. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I understood. And they have again just a vicious, loyal following of people that only buy stuff from them, and they've been a long-standing supporter of High Society. They always bring in at least a certain number of boards per year. But again, we don't overproduce, which is a huge issue in the industry. And to answer your question, I mean, we really rely more on word of mouth and, a little bit of targeted digital advertising, but we know that eventually customers will run into our brand. They'll hear about our brand from somebody. We just want to make sure that what they hear about us or what they learn about us, the first impression is that, they had a good experience, good customer service, and a high quality product that, they weren't held over the coals for, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, table stakes to a good business. You're going to give them something that's going to perform well. What goes into your boards? In other words, like from year to year, switching up the designs. I know a lot of people are making a lot of changes. Like we said, there's a lot of smaller businesses popping up now. How do you guys decide when you're going to try new things, or if a board's been an awesome performer, do you want to make changes and risk that, or do you tweak the design or keep that one and make something new? What's going through your head when you're coming up with the new boards you want to make?
Well, it's a good question. We're definitely not trend chasers. I know right now there's a lot of demand, and people are really interested. All these funky shapes that are coming out, and I think it's super cool. We did one a couple years ago. We called it the Kahuna. It's kind of a directional cambered board with a long early rise spoon to it. Super fun, really short
Nice.
tail. Kind of an all mountain surf style board is what I called it. And, that's really, really trendy in the industry right now. As far as our main product offering, with the exception of, some smaller runs here and there, we kind of stick to our tried and true shapes and our best performers. Mostly for consistency, because we know our customers are looking for a certain type of board. Most of our customers want a one board quiver, which we have five boards in our lineup, and that's it. Nothing too crazy. And all boards are kind of designed to be that if you want them to. I mean, you could pick up a rare from our line, which is a cambered twin, which is my kind of go-to deck unless we have more snow. And then I go into the GTS, which is a new board for us.
Yep.
But, besides that, just kind of keeping really strong free ride profiles with the best possible construction that we can do and not make them crazy expensive, I guess is the easiest way to put it.
Sure. So how do you go from making a few snowboards to making stand-up paddleboards and skis? And it's a bunch of different technology. I imagine it's probably different manufacturing partners too, right? So that's got to be an evolution that you have to be driving at least.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as far as the skis went, that was pretty natural. I mean, from the day that we brought our snowboards out, some of our ski buddies up in Snowmass were just, eager. When are you guys going to bring out skis? When are you guys going to do skis? And it was early 2000s again. So it was kind of the beginning of that fat twin tip ski era. Mm-hmm. And so it was pretty natural for us to be able to go to our partner factories and be able to bang out some good ski designs. Even today, our skis are made in snowboard presses down at the Never Summer factory. So that's kind of cool, I think, coming from
that is cool.
A snowboarder. But the technology in the skis is not different than the technology that's in the snowboards. We have a different rocker profile that's in there, but really they perform the same. You just stand on them a little different. You have two instead of one. But as far as the paddle boards go, we're not talking about rocket surgery. We're, talking about, straight tracking, easy to turn, lightweight performance, inflatable stand-up paddle boards. We design everything here in-house. We design them to kind of be user-friendly for everybody from the never ever to somebody that's been paddleboarding a long time and just wants a good inflatable option. Because we know that hardboard, if you want something super high performance, you're going to go with a hardboard or a race board with some super low profile and a glass construction. But for what we're doing right now, really it's a product of our own selfish reasons, boards that we wanted to use so we could go paddle the rivers and paddle the reservoirs around here and be able to transport them and store them really easy.
Yeah, I've never been on one, so I'm curious. What's the difference between someone that would be a never ever or someone that's experienced? What would you look for in the board? What's different about the different boards? Like I've never seen anyone out there doing anything too extreme. What's the difference that unlocks the potential, or what would people be doing?
Sure. Well, like in surfing, for example, stand-up surfing, you'd have a much thinner profile board with a different rocker shape to it, something that's really going to be able to paddle through the break and then be able to settle into the pocket of a wave and be maneuverable. It's a totally different feel than a flat water board, which, typically some of them even have a V hull to them so that they cut through the chop and they cut through the waves a little bit better and they stay super stable, but they're very efficient with every paddle stroke. So that way, you're getting the most out of every sweep. The stuff that we're doing, really, it's more about utility. It's about being able to pack them up into a small package, load 3 or 4 people and their boards up into a truck or an SUV or something and hike up to a river or a high alpine lake or something like that.
Yeah.
And drop in and float down.
Get out to some remote locations, have a lightweight gear.
Yeah. Yeah. Something super easy. I mean, a full package weighs about 35 pounds in a backpack, which once you put it on and you hike up, for an hour, it starts to feel really heavy, but you wouldn't do that with a 60-pound, 14-foot board or something like that,
Right. I was out this weekend actually on a trip, and we did some whitewater rafting, and the guide had told us that he's starting to see people out there on the river with stand-up paddleboards going through some of the rapids. Do you guys do that?
Yeah. Yeah, that was something else I was going to mention. Is out here it's becoming more and more popular, and we have a model in our lineup, the USS HS2, which has a specific shape and profile that's really good for that kind of stuff. It's got a slight tapered tail, so you can kind of drop your weight towards the tail of the board and essentially turn it around rocks or, maneuver it through rapids. But it's nice and wide, so you can adjust your stance, and it's really stable for going through those types of rapids. Now, I wouldn't recommend jumping on one with no experience and bombing like a class 3 or a class 4. But you can definitely get on one with relatively little experience and run some pretty small rapids and have a great time doing it. Yeah, go ahead.
I could see it being awesome in some lighter class ones. We were in class 4. I don't think you could pay me to get on a stand-up paddleboard and go down some of those.
Yeah. Well, when you see the guys doing it, they're geared up almost in like moto gear. Hockey
oh, no
gear.
way.
They're wearing like knee pads and elbow pads and padded gloves and helmets, sometimes face masks, makes sense.
Yeah, that makes way more sense. So I didn't see anybody doing it, but hearing someone out there doing it just sounded nuts. But if you're in all that gear, I guess that my biggest worry would be that you're going to fall off this a lot more than you're falling out of the raft, and you're going to turn into mincemeat on all the rocks in the river. But if you got that gear, then hell, maybe it's fun. Maybe you can get away with it.
Yeah, well, a lot of times when you're falling, like you don't necessarily go flying off your sup. Most of the time, if you're going to fall, you fall down onto it, and you end up just riding on your, taking a knee ride through the rapids or something like that. But if you do fall off, everybody's wearing these, big PFDs with leashes that are attached to them so they can quick release and let their board go in case they get, caught up on something.
Yeah.
That's like the most dangerous thing in the river versus the rocks is, strainers and pour overs where, if your board got caught up and you're tied on with a leash and you can't get it off, bad news.
Yeah, bad news.
So.
And you do apparel too. Do you guys manufacture the apparel, or is that like third party ordering?
Yeah, again, we outsource everything. We're a real small operation here. Like I said, it's just my buddy Reggie and I with a few other people that work for us remotely. And yeah, our apparel is all designed here in house, and then we contract that out. We try to source as much stuff domestically as we possibly can. Some of that stuff is just not possible, but
right.
Yeah, as far as our apparel line goes.
I think that's really cool. I wasn't saying good or bad about outsourcing. It's just a factor of business. I was just curious, I guess why I was asking the question is between the snowboards and then the skis are related, but then you've got the stand-up paddleboards, then you get into apparel. Just from your job, that's a lot of different kinds of management, of different kinds of manufacturing. That's why I was digging in. I'm just curious. Sure. It's got to eventually be a handful to offer a whole bunch of stuff from a whole bunch of different places and figure out how to put it all together.
It can be, but we just try to manage our workload and manage our time in a way that, we can be careful and take our time and be thoughtful through the process. So we're bringing out good quality stuff and paying attention to make sure that everything's done correctly the way that we want it to be. And to be honest, again, Adam, it's stuff that we want to wear, stuff that we want to use. And we do it, we make it, and we bring it out to market. And eventually people like us, find us through various channels. So it's kind of a cool thing. It's neat when when I walk down the street and I see people I have no idea who they are, or I see Instagram photos come in from across the country, people that are rocking the brand and wearing the logo and using the equipment, and they're super psyched on the brand, and never met them. I don't know anything about them, but we connect over those common things like snowboarding and skiing and paddleboarding and just the outdoor lifestyle.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I mean, what's a great feeling, the business that you built and have somebody walking around in your gear. All right, what are you? You're a snowboarder, right? Do you ski too, or mostly snowboarder?
I'll be honest. I haven't had a pair of skis on my feet since I was 14. Not that I'm against it, but I just don't.
Me too. I had a similar switch when I was a early teenager from skis to snowboard, and not looking back. And I like them both. Just one feels right to me. Skiing never felt quite as comfortable as snowboarding.
Yeah. Well, if Nordic skiing counts, I probably cross country ski 2 or 3 times a year, and I really actually enjoy that. But I don't do it very often. I have a trail that runs right in front of my house here in the Roaring Fork Valley that's typically groomed, but it's a trail over blacktop. It's kind of a bike path in the summer. So if it's too sunny, I live in Woody Creek, which is kind of like the banana belt of our valley. So, if it gets too warm for a few days, the trail melts off pretty quick. But I try to get out there and use it at least a few times a winter. And like I said, that's about all the skiing I do.
Well, that's fun. You definitely live in the right place, though. You excited for this year, for the season?
I'm starting to get there. The older I get, the more I'm loving my summers. But I've been watching some snowboard videos and starting to get emails and phone calls about this year's lineup, which we'll be releasing here in the next month or so, and getting pretty excited to show off next year's graphics. Got some cool ones coming out that I'm super psyched on. But it'll be that first cold snap in September where we see some snow here in the valley that'll really change the mood for everybody. I guess we got some on Monarch Pass last night. I saw a picture online today, but it's only August 7th, so I can wait.
Right. It's a little early. I agree with you on the summer thing. I'm a mountain biker too, so I'm in no rush to get to winter once I get to summer. But I just started feeling the pangs this week, and my 6-year-old started asking, how long until we get to snowboard again? So I think we're near that time when you're shifting out of summer and back into the riding weather.
Yeah, it's coming.
Oh, it's coming. So with all the different sports that you guys are making gear for and what you're doing, without giving out any secrets, obviously, where are you heading? Is there any new activities you're going to get into? Any kinds of new things you're manufacturing? What's the future for High Society?
To be honest, we're really loving the SUP line, and I see us probably expanding that part of our business broadly in the next couple of seasons. Currently we're only doing inflatables, but we have some cool designs for some hardboards coming out, some both flat water and surf. Can't go into it too much, but we've got a cool partner that we'd like to start working with. We're trying to work out some things. He's got some neat manufacturing processes here domestically, and some cool materials that nobody else is using that we just really are digging on the whole vibe, and we're hopefully going to be able to get that going here in the next year or two. Outside of that, who knows? Just kind of depends on what tomorrow brings, what becomes interesting to us tomorrow, I guess.
So with the paddleboards, when you're looking at either a solid board or an inflatable, like you were just saying, aside from weight, what goes into it? What's the difference aside from hauling it up like you were saying, if you're going out for a half an hour hike to go up the river? Mm-hmm. What else would weigh in?
You mean as far as performance goes, or?
Yeah, I've never ridden either. So why would you choose one over the other? Is it just weight, or is there a difference in the way it hits the waves? And is it easier in the chop? Like, I don't know. I don't understand the difference between the two.
Sure. Well, how do like I said, inflatables are just a super utility type board. Like they will get the job done in all the different conditions. They're not great surfboards, but you can surf them. They're not the best boards on flat water. If you want a race board, you'd get something with a really sleek design, something 12 to 14 feet long, probably around 25 to 30 inches wide, with more kind of a V hull. Almost looks like a flat sculling type board or something. And the reason being for that is you want the most efficient board possible to cut through the waves and glide through the water with every stroke, so you can be as fast as possible. With the inflatable boards, you're really just looking for an easy way to transport them, to move them around, to store them. I mean, they pack down into a box into a backpack that's about 40 inches long and 15 inches wide. So it's about as big as like a large overnight backpack. And you could store half a dozen of those in a closet. Out here in Aspen, for a lot of the people, storage is an issue. Everybody kind of just has like a couple of toy closets versus having a full-blown garage or something. And so these are easy to store, easy to transport. You can put 4 of them in the back of a Prius and take off and go spend a whole afternoon paddling. So that's probably the biggest advantage to the inflatables, not to mention the durability of them. If you have a hard board, like, if you've ever been surfing or been around surfboards, you know that if you ding your surfboard, you're not riding that board that day. You need to get that board fixed, because if you get water saturation in between the layers on a surfboard, just like if you get a core shot on your snowboard, water saturation is a killer. It just starts to, disrupt the integrity of the construction. You'll eventually get delamination, and the board will never be the same. And eventually it just won't, it'll just be junk. So
same with skateboards.
Yeah, exactly. So with, inflatables, you don't have to worry about that. I mean, I've only ever seen somebody pop theirs once, and it's because the girl didn't strap it down to the top of her car. She took off down the road and it blew off at like 25 miles an hour and got a nice quarter size hole in it because it, flipped off her car and rolled down the blacktop. So,
when you started to tell me about that, I think I heard you right, and you said that people do stand-up paddleboard racing. Oh
yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, a good friend of ours.
This is not my sport. You're gonna have to forgive my ignorance, but what does that race go like? That is it like slow and steady wins the race, or can you actually move these things?
Oh yeah, they're absolutely 100% maneuverable. I mean, there's all different sizes and shapes. So shorter, narrower are going to be, not quite as fast, but turnier. Longer, sleeker are going to be faster, more efficient for just going straight. There's a big race in Hawaii called the Molokai, and our buddy Scott McPhail, who lives in Oahu, he races in the over 50 class, and I think he's won it once, and I think this year he came in top 5 or something. But I think it's like a 50-mile race or something. I'd have to look it up, but whatever it is, it's something unbelievable. It's something I wouldn't do. You're basically racing through channels in the ocean against these guys that are just freaks, huge arms, huge shoulders, and they can just, crank with these paddles. If you ever get a chance to go down and see these guys on the ocean with them, it's pretty cool to watch. Like guys like Laird Hamilton, if you look up videos of Laird, he was pretty much the guy that brought this sport to the masses, made it mainstream and made it cool. It's a real athletic feat to watch these guys do it. It's cool.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now, and I'm looking at the different images and some videos about it. Yeah, it's funny because I'm not really a water sports. I'm more a mountain sports kind of person, and my experience, the extent of me seeing paddleboarders is like, people on Cape Cod doing half a mile an hour for 15 minutes, and then they come in. So it just boggles my mind to think about the racing. But I'm pulling up all kinds of pictures here, and yeah, the boards vary from everything where you've got 8-10 people on one board to there's some here that don't look any wider than a snowboard.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, those big Sasquatch boards are pretty fun. Those are like party boards. You get your whole family on it.
Hard to tip. I should stop looking at pictures now. I'm going to get sucked in.
Easy to do.
Yeah, no
Just
kidding.
don't look up any snowboard videos.
Yeah, I know. No, I'll just be itching to do something I can't do yet. But that's all right. There's still plenty of mountain biking season left.
Yeah, totally.
Do you do any
That's something
other summer sports?
Honestly, I took up golf a couple years ago, and it's become like my major kind of addiction.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It's the older I get, the easier it is on my body. Gets me outside. It's probably the biggest thing. And wherever I go, I have an opportunity to play.
Something new.
Yeah, exactly. I used to ride downhill bikes. Decided to give that up when I had my daughter about 7 years ago. Hard reality hits that your life is no longer your own. It belongs to somebody else. And I had to just kind of be realistic about that because I loved riding my downhill bike. It's just it just got to be a little too risky for me. And that's just was my personal choice to give that up.
Sure.
Have often thought about getting an uphill bike and getting back into biking. But as you know, with career, family, and just a couple of hobbies, it's hard to find time to do them all and do them all well. So I've kind of trimmed that down to just a few things. And, golf has become like my other favorite pastime. Plus it has nothing to do with work, which is, something outside of the action sports industry, I guess you could say.
Yeah, way to disconnect.
It takes my mind off of everything else. And I still love the action sports industry. Don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean I'm not still passionate about it, but it is nice to do something that's completely out of the realm of what I've done for the last 25 or 30 years of my life.
Yeah, definitely. And plus it's, to each their own. So it just matters what piques your interest. I'm curious about, you still snowboard, but you don't do the downhill biking anymore. Were you way crazier on a bike than you are on a board, or you just feel safer on the snow? What about you? Just curious, how does one keep its luster, but one lose it?
Sure. That's a good question, Adam. I wouldn't say that I was crazier on a bike than a board, but I would say that I trust the snow a lot more than I trust trails or maybe even I trust the mechanics of a bike. A snowboard's a pretty simple piece of equipment. It's, two bindings strapped to my feet and a piece of wood with some plastic. And I feel as comfortable on my snowboard as I do walking down the street, or maybe more so sometimes. With the bike, coming around a corner at top speed and after a couple of dry weeks and it's a little, some moon dust down there and it starts sliding around, or, it getting ejected through the trees and realizing how close you were to actually getting mangled. It was enough to kind of wake me up and decide that, nobody's going to sponsor me, dude. I'm 39 years old and it's like, I'm still getting my kicks on these other things, but, there's no reason for me to be out there trying to jump cars on my bike anymore, as fun as it was. And I've got, some pictures to look back on and be like, hey, I used to do that stuff. But, now it's really about, trying to stay healthy, trying to stay in shape so I can, provide for my family and hang with my kids and be around. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and there's definitely a difference. I was downhill riding this weekend and I only do it like once a year, not a lot. And I basically like ride blues and stay in control, or at least what I view as control. And I don't go crazy. I don't ride any of the blacks or do any huge airs or anything like that. But mostly when I ride in the woods, just on trails here in New England. So I totally get what you're saying when you're just flying down a hill especially at a larger mountain at a resort. The speeds and the trails can get a little hairy. I think that, not that I'm convincing you, but if you were to go back, like you said, a bike that's actually meant for pedaling and riding in regular places, those, I went over the handlebars a couple weeks ago, but I was doing probably 4 miles an hour over, a rock garden.
Right.
So it didn't hurt that bad when I landed. I wasn't going too fast and I wasn't doing anything too nuts. It was just front tire got stuck and over I went.
Yeah. Totally.
I feel a lot safer, riding in the woods at a normal human pace than bearing down the mountain. Not that I don't love it. I'm not going to pretend to be as responsible as you. It's fun.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'm making myself sound better than I am, but I guess that was just kind of where I got to it, or where I got with it, So I would like to probably jump back into an uphill bike at some point. I still won't bring myself to getting a road bike, but who knows? That could change in 10 years too.
I'm with you on that. It's not that I want to run into any bears, but I'd rather a bear than a Ford.
Right. Yeah. I don't know how it is out there, but here there's just no shoulders on the roads. And even though we have some pretty amazing bike trails and bike paths all through the valley, most people opt to just ride on the road with the regular traffic. And it's, most people are pretty respectful, but I'd be just concerned about those few people that may just want to give you a little bump. I don't know.
Yeah, me too. I used to ride. I used to ride road, and it scares the tar out of me, to be honest. I mean, and here it's similar to what you're saying. We have no shoulder, no bike paths on the roads, nothing like that. And most of this place is old New England roads where, a lot of them came to be before there was even cars. So they're not wide enough for two cars, never mind two cars plus you on your bike. Plus you've got that angry masshole that's gonna want to pop you off the road just because he's late to get his Dunkin' Donuts. It's I think you're asking for trouble. Not that I don't say that to blame the cyclists, that they have it's cool to get out and do something, but yeah, it scares me. It's too, you're leaving too much up to other people at that point.
Yeah. Well, and don't get me wrong. That's just my personal view on it, my personal choice on the matter, but other guys in the company are all avid bikers. Reggie's a big mountain biker. He's out, every week doing it. Our buddy Jay Morin out here, he's pretty well known in the valley. He's one of the fastest guys on that, whatever that app is, ripping the app out, the Snowmass trails here. And then, several other friends are all road bikers. So, it's around us. High society definitely does things and is around that stuff, but, it's just not for me personally.
You can't not be around it in Colorado, right? I mean, that's why I'm wondering what you're into. Cause there's you live in a place where there's just endless things to do that people envy where you're at and the ease of, mountain.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And I guess I still get out and skateboard at least a couple of times this summer. Again, it's one of those things where, big tree, fall hard type stuff.
No kidding.
But I like to go to the park and drop in and show my kids that I can still drop in and surf around a little bit. I was never a great skateboarder, but I still do like to go out and coast around a little bit on my 9-inch deck. I got into bow hunting out here a little while ago. So I spend my fall hiking around in the woods, looking at animals. I don't really harvest that many, but when I do, it's exciting and it's great food for the winter. But more than anything, it's just a really good excuse to get out, get up into the mountains and go places where people don't normally venture off to, and get super close to animals in their natural habitat and get to watch them do their thing. And most of the time they don't even know you're there. So that's what I really love about that. And then
that's badass. Yeah, that's on my list. Bow hunting is something I've never done, but I want to do it. What are you typically hunting for?
I usually get a deer tag and an elk tag. I have pulled bear tags out here before. Just when I had the opportunities to take one, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I've eaten bear. But it's not my favorite thing to eat. But typically I go for elk and deer. It's awesome meat to keep in the freezer.
Have you caught both?
I've never caught one, Adam, but I have taken a couple. Yeah.
Yeah. Of both the deer and elk.
Yeah.
I've had deer. I've never had elk, but I hear it's amazing.
Really is. I mean, it's about the best protein, one of the best protein sources you could get ounce per ounce. Virtually no fat on it. It tastes like, just tastes like meat. People never even claim that it's gamey. So yeah, it's awesome. It's a little different than the deer that you guys have out there. We have mule deer here. I think back east, it's more, whitetail, but,
What's the difference?
They're just a different species as far as I know. I mean, I'm no biologist by any means, but whitetail tend to be a little bit bigger in body, smaller racks on the males, and um, they have different food sources. I don't think you guys have a whole lot for sagebrush and rabbit brush out there like we do here. But yeah, out here the mule deer are a little bit smaller bodied. They tend to get these huge antlers on them, which are really cool looking. But they're just they're just good protein sources, good food source. I really like eating it. I like feeding it to my family, and it's just it's one of those things I like to do in the fall where it gets me out. It's kind of away from my normal action sports industry job, and it's cool.
Yeah, it is cool, and you can't get much cleaner food than that. I mean, that's not raised on hormones and antibiotics. That's as free range as it gets.
Exactly right.
And I know you mentioned a while ago that you were eager to get outside. So, is there anything else that you want to touch on or talk about that's upcoming, or do you want to go get outside?
Eventually, I'm going to get outside here. It's another beautiful day in Colorado. Finally got a little bit of rain a couple days ago, but today it's 80 and sunny again, just like usual.
Yeah, you guys get a lot of sun, right?
I think 300 plus days a year. I mean, this summer it seems like it's going to be more than that. We're in a pretty heavy drought, which has really affected the water sports industry here as far as rafting and stuff goes. Plus, we've had constant wildfires, which has made playing outdoors kind of interesting. With smells like campfire all the time, and we're under constant health advisories for the air quality. But it seems like
it's been a hard year for that.
Yeah, it's been pretty weird. I've been out here for 16 years, and it's the first time I've seen it this bad. But I think they're getting it under control. And like I said, today's a nice clear day. So, yeah, plenty of time to get out there.
Yeah, I hope so. I have family out there, and it's been unnerving watching the fires, and it seems like it's been an exceptionally bad year. It's weird being out here because you forget about it until someone brings it up again, but it's not like the problem goes away for the people that are dealing with it. It's still there until Facebook or the news tells me about it again. But in real life, it's ongoing, and that's a real problem.
Well, as long as people are smart during these drought seasons and not flicking cigarettes out the window or shooting tracer rounds, in tinder areas, then we're usually good to go. But this year, weren't so lucky.
No, and once it happens, it's not a whole lot that can be done, which is the scary part.
Yeah.
LA had really bad ones this year too, I think, at least.
Yeah, California's on fire. Hopefully, it just means that we're going to get a lot of snow this year. That's what I'd like to think. I'm optimistic. I always say it's a good day to be optimistic.
Are those correlated? Fires with snow?
Actually, they are, because I just found this out last year that ash is typically the best thing that goes up into the atmosphere that creates snowflakes. Just found that out from some friends of mine that actually do snowmaking. And it's like little dust particles or tiny particles of ash floating around in the atmosphere are like the perfect catalyst to creating snowflakes and ice crystals. So I'm not saying that wildfires this year mean we're going to have a big snow year. I don't think that's true, but I'm just hoping, seeing as how it's August right now. I
shouldn't hold you to that.
Yeah, don't hold me to anything. I might just be talking right on my ass, but
hey, you never know. I never know. I'll find out this winter.
Right. You gonna get outside and do anything yourself?
Not today. I'm going to go play with my kids today because I was away for the weekend with some buddies doing some mountain biking and rafting. So I came home yesterday and played with them. I'm going to go play with them after work today and probably get back out on the bike tomorrow.
There you go. Nice. It's kind of gotten me thinking.
That's my loose plans.
Got me thinking maybe I should go borrow a bike from one of my buddies and go for a ride myself.
You should. And I'm also thinking I should borrow a stand-up paddleboard from somebody and give it a shot. As long as it's not ocean. We have way too many great whites here. But I would try it on river or lake, I think.
Yeah, are you right next to the ocean?
No, I live like almost an hour inland. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, it's just as easy to get to ocean here in Mass as it is to any other type of water. Most people head down to the Cape, head down to or up to the North Shore, South Shore. There's plenty of spots to get out there, but I just can't imagine for the life of me why they do when there's 30-foot sharks waiting to eat them.
Yeah, that's why I love going back home to the Great Lakes, because it feels like a sea, it looks like a sea, but I know there's nothing in that lake that can hurt me except for the lake itself. So that's what I love about that.
Exactly. I'm with you. I'll go up to, I don't mind even snakes or something that might be, give me a bad day, but it's the sharks I cannot get past out there. We have people here that are avid surfers, and she's always trying to get me to go out and surf with her, but just can't do it. As much as I think it'd be fun, I've always been a skater, always been a snowboarder. Of course, surfing would be fun, but I can't do it. I saw Jaws too young, I think.
That's funny. That is funny. I try to get on a surf trip at least once a year if I possibly can. I've got a really good buddy that lives in Nicaragua. And, it's just one of those things when you paddle out there, they're down there, but you just ignore it because number one, you're trying not to get killed by the wave. And number two, I'm completely concentrating on, try to paddle in and catch one. So, luckily I've never seen one, never felt one touch me. So far, so good.
Oh man, that would freak me out. I can't imagine one bumping my leg or something, or seeing it just swim below. You always see those pictures online. I don't know if they're doctored or fake or something, but someone's on a stand-up paddleboard and underneath it's a shark that's 3 times the size of the paddleboard. I can't even imagine.
That would get me right out of the water for good, probably, if I ever saw that.
We just had a video that you could say is going viral, I guess, but a video taken on the Cape, I think in the last day or so here, with some fishermen. I think it was fishermen, either that or some tour out off Cape Cod, and they're going along in the boat. And the up at the front of a fishing boat, there's like that, almost like a catwalk where this person goes out with the.
I saw that, dude.
Did you? Man. Oh, can you imagine? The first thing I thought was, I'm glad that guy didn't fall overboard, because I would have done a backflip right off that section.
Yeah, no, that was so freaky, but yeah, forget that.
Yeah, no way. I should stop talking about it before I make you never go surfing again.
I don't know.
I always feel like a ruiner of good times.
I don't know, man. Catching. I suck at surfing. It's like one of the hardest things I've ever tried to do in my entire life is surfing, and that's probably part of the allure to it. It's kind of like golf in a way. Like one good shot is enough to like make you try again, make you come back for another day. And same thing with surfing. Like
for a year,
catching one good wave is enough to make me think about it until the next trip, or think about it through the rest of the night into the next day and try it again. And it's, it's just one of those things I really love.
Yeah, I can see that. I get the allure. I think it would be fun. And I would like to try one of those wave pools, or maybe, the wave pool on a cruise ship or somewhere where the sharks have a harder time to get underneath.
Well, what everybody's doing out here, Adam, is they've got these, they're basically wake surf boats. So they're like wakeboard boats, but they're modified. So they kick up this, waist high wake. That's a perfect shape. Mm-hmm. And you surf it. They make these wake surfers, and then you can do it on a lake without having to go in the ocean, and you don't even have to paddle into it. The boat kind of gets you in there. And,
that's pretty popular here.
That's pretty sweet.
That's pretty popular here on the lake. Yeah, it looks awesome. So that's something I would try.
Yeah, I've done it up on the reservoirs, and it's super fun because it's just a perfect little curl. And I mean, you could surf all the way around the lake if some of my friends are good enough. They don't even need to use a rope to get up and get down the wave. They just stand off the back of the boat, full speed or whatever it is, and they just step off on their board, and boom, they're in the pocket, and they're going up and doing little lip turns and kicks, and it's sweet. I mean, they just sit back there forever.
It's badass.
I know. It's super fun.
I can't imagine, but I want to. Like, it looks fun as hell. We're at a I don't know what you'd call it, but like a festival for water sports recently, and they had a bunch of demo boats and the board, so you could go out and they would take you around the lake and you could drop in and learn how to do it. They also had one of those, those, like, who's that villain in Spider-Man? Those suits you wear in the water, those boots on your feet that you can fly above the water.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they had some demos of that, which I thought was badass.
Did you try
it? There was a long line. No, the line was too long, and I was with my kids, and they didn't want to be around that long. They were willing to wait until the next person got up to see what it was all about, but that guy wasn't very good at it. So then it was
Uh,
boring. So then there was no way we were going to spend another 2 hours, waiting for my shot. But it looked really cool. The guy took a while to get going, but once he did, he's 10 feet up in the air and flying around, trying to get used to turning. It was really
that's
cool.
awesome. I'm sure that's a lot harder than it looks. Those guys on the videos make it look pretty easy, but I can just see myself getting tossed around on that thing.
Yeah, I think so. But that's what's interesting about your job, my job. There's a lot of new things coming to be. There's, like you're saying, with the wave surfing or surfing behind the boat. And I was talking to my guide again on that whitewater trip, and he was saying people bring their surfboards to the river and they'll drop into a surf spot on the class 3s and 4s and they'll surf. You'll be heading down on a raft, he said, and you'll find a guy just standing still surfing in a little hole in a pocket till he
Oh yeah,
crashes.
totally. If you YouTube Glenwood Springs wave, in the springtime, when we get the runoff, there's a whitewater park in Glenwood Springs, and when the river gets up to like, I don't know, 30,000 or something like that CFS, it'll kick up a wave that's more than waist high, and it's the same thing. I used to have a 8.3 WRV longboard, and we'd take that thing down there, and you could just jump off the rock, take 2 paddles, and get into the pocket and stand up, and you could sit there and surf forever. But now people are doing it on stand-ups, and they just step off the rock, they take 2 sweeps with their paddle, they're in the pocket, and people can stand there for hours and just surf one wave. It's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, I just Googled it. It looks sick. It looks awesome.
Yeah, and
It's not hard to stay in.
no, I mean, as long as you kind of find your sweet spot and stay there, you're good. But once you fall out, I mean, the river's moving so quick that there is no recovering. You're going down river. So
Right, yeah. You don't paddle back to it.
Nope. And then, you kind of get out and walk back up the river to the spot, get back in the lineup, and then do it again. I haven't done it in a couple springs. We just really haven't had the runoff, and it's, the peak is quick. So when people are doing it, when it's running big, it's super busy down there. There's a ton of people doing it, hanging out, putting up tents and stuff, and just chilling and surfing. But the last couple summers, it's just hasn't really peaked that high. So guys on stand-ups, they can really monopolize it.
Yeah, there's a guy right here I'm looking at on a stand-up with his paddle out behind him steering. Yep. He looks like he's on a raft, but there's nothing behind him. It looks like he's leaning into the wave, but there's nothing there to catch him.
He's just chilling. Yeah, it's good stuff, and
having a good day.
And that's kind of where we see ourselves going with some of these hardboards that we're doing is coming out with a shorter, wider river surfer shape, something that's kind of built specifically for that application. We've tossed around some ideas, and we have some drawings for wake surfers that we'd eventually like to get into, and kind of eventually just open up the water sports side of our brand a lot more as we go forward. So I think that's
hell yeah. So
go ahead.
Do you guys do a lot of this stuff yourselves? Like I mean, I know you ride the boards, but getting out to this, like the surf spot you were telling me about, doing some of this other stuff. Do you guys get into that a lot?
We definitely do. And especially, our friends around us all have ski boats. I don't personally have a boat. I have kids. So I can't afford a boat right now, but it's on the list of things to get.
Right, they don't go hand in hand.
I don't have the extra 70 grand kicking around for one of those sweet boats, but I have friends that have them, which is better than owning one. Is
way better.
So yeah, I usually get up to Root Eye Reservoir a few times a summer to go surfing. These guys call me every weekend to go. It's just finding the time, like I said, with all the other hobbies, but absolutely try to get out there and do it as much as I can.
That's badass. You guys should get some video of that stuff so that people like me that are ignorant can know it exists on your site.
Oh, we'll get fun. Video of guys that actually look good doing it, not just flailing around back there, but
even better. Well, and maybe not. I know it depends who you talk to. A lot of brands, they're making a real effort to show humans on with their products and doing using them and doing what they do. It was funny. I talked to Spacecraft, a guy from Spacecraft, Chad Perrin. He was on the podcast, and he talked a lot about how important it is to the brand to keep everything really authentic, and that the people that are in their marketing photos, work there, or they're real customers. They're just real people, as opposed to someone that you'd never actually find on a mountain bike trail or on, snowboarding. I thought that was an interesting take.
Well, and it's totally true. I mean, you've looked around my website enough to know that I'm in a lot of those pictures on there. A lot of those snowboard pictures are me. A lot of those quote unquote modeling pictures are just, me wearing the t-shirt, or customers that, send us in their photos and let us use them. We don't pay anybody on there. We don't pay any riders for, our team or anything like that. Everything's as real as it gets, man.
And you have a team for, what do you have a team for both snowboarding? Do you have one for skiing?
We have a couple riders for both. And as far as team goes, it's not like it used to be, especially, we used to have a lot of guys that would travel around and compete in different circuits. It's not so much anymore. I mean, I'll be honest, as we get older, so does everybody else around us. Like, our demographic even is changed. As far as our team goes, most of those guys are out just content crew, kind of creating content. They're getting pictures for us. Or just being good brand ambassadors on the mountain wherever they're going.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Especially if you're a small brand. Because I talk to a lot of folks in these industries, right? And you see a real different take on what it means to have a team or to have people out there riding their shit. So you get companies that are, they're gonna have riders in the World Cup. They're gonna be taking this stuff real serious. Then you've got others that are like, man, I just want people that are in the right places, using our stuff, talking to people, just being a friendly person and spreading the love for the brand. And that goes a lot further, I think, with real people, because for instance, most people I ride with, you can pick either one, snowboarding or mountain biking. They don't care about the World Cup. They're not going to watch it. They don't know a single athlete in it. Not that it's not cool and it's awesome for the people that like it, but most people don't. They just like to get out and ride their snowboard or ride their bike. They're not a fan of other people riding snowboards and bikes.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I think, probably a lot of other people would say the same thing about theirs, but our brand is really mostly about the people. The products are, again, I'll admit that we selfishly design this stuff for ourselves. And there's a lot of other people that come to us because they want to do the same thing that we're doing. And that's who we're looking for as far as customers go. But that's also, the kind of people that we're partnering with or that we're adding into our ambassador crew or whatever it is, are just good, solid people that are out and about in their community. And it's not even really about the brand. It's just about their connections with people. So I don't know if that makes sense.
And then you just meet those people. Yeah, no, it kind of does. And you meet those people over the course of your travels, I'm guessing. And it's just, you had the right vibe, they were just the right people that you're comfortable being connected to.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fun. I could ask you for hours about that, but I won't, especially with the sups, because I still don't understand that industry. I gotta get better educated. The fact that you told me they raced today was an eye-opening moment.
Yeah. It's pretty cool stuff.
It sounds cool. I'm gonna have to learn a lot about it. Like I said, I've only ever seen people floating along. It looked really relaxing, but that's all I've ever seen is the really relaxing, spend the afternoon on the water type version of it.
Yeah, that's kind of my favorite thing to do with it. Sitting on it with a couple of cold ones and just floating down the river with some friends is just an amazing way to spend the afternoon. But even getting up in the morning and going for a paddle when the lake is super glassy and you see all kinds of cool stuff out there. You see eagles flying and fish under your feet, and it's neat. I like it.
It is. It's just nice to be outside, and it's another excuse to get outside.
That's it. So
definitely. And we're hitting an hour. So speaking about getting outside, you want to call it and go do your thing, and I'll go.
Sounds good, man. I really appreciate you having me on.
All right, man. Hey, yeah, I'm glad you came on. I'm glad we got a chance to talk again. It was fun, and I really am thankful for you taking the time. I hope we can do it again and just stay in contact and watch as High Society keeps going and figure out what you're going to get into next that you can't tell me about, and I'll get to watch from the outside.
Sounds cool. Give me a call this winter. Even if it's not for the podcast, just give me a call. we'll just shoot the shit about snowboarding then.
Definitely. Maybe we'll go snowboarding. If I can get out there, we'll go for a ride. It'd be fun.
Same thing. If I get out east, I'll look you up.
Done. Thanks, man.
All right, Adam. Take care, bro.